ACE-031 results for bodybuilding. Does it work? Well, the human data on ACE-031 is real. Muscle hypertrophy numbers are remarkable. I mean, if you think, what if I could actually turn on this follistatin expression and really put on some lean muscle mass? In one of the studies, they took postmenopausal women, and what they found is just using single injections weekly, these postmenopausal women, they had a 5.1% increase in thigh muscle volume. They lost about 9% of subcutaneous fat, and they were able to do this in just 29 days. They didn't change their exercise. This is pretty impressive. Now, there's some interesting things that we're going to be talking about in this video, but the largest pharmacological muscle gains ever demonstrated in human trial was terminated because there were vascular effects. And so at the higher doses, there's some problems when you start activating follistatin. And so we're going to jump into that in this video. And so I'm Regan Archibald, founder of Ageless Future, and we're the world leader in longevity medicine because we build operating systems for every human that comes into the practice. We run comprehensive labs, we do gut testing, genetics. We want to look at the whole picture, and then we put together very specific protocols for you. Peptide stacks, peptide pulsing. That's what we're all about, because your health is your most valuable resource. And we found when health improves, everything improves. So all you need to do is go to agelessfuture.com and get started with my team. Do your free assessment, see if it makes sense for you. So what is ACE-031? And I'm just going to call it ACE-031. It's easier. ACE-031, it's a fusion protein. It's not technically a peptide, but it's the soluble form of an activin receptor type 2B. And what it does is it fuses to an antibody fragment and it binds to myostatin. So myostatin is a protein that your body produces to limit muscle growth. So this is called a myostatin inhibitor. So myostatin's the brakes. I mean, imagine if you were just building muscle nonstop. I know you're probably like, is that what happened to you, Regan? No, it's not what happened to me, but imagine if you just could build muscle nonstop. You'd think, oh, this is great, right? Well, until you continually grow and your organs start expanding and everything starts expanding, it doesn't end well. And so myostatin, we have a brake on the production of skeletal muscle, and that's where myostatin inhibition turns on more follistatin. But what ACE-031 is, it's a decoy receptor. It circulates in the bloodstream and binds myostatin before myostatin can reach the native receptor on the muscle cells. And the problem at the higher doses, and if you're using it too frequently, is not only does it bind to myostatin, but it also binds to activin A, B, the GDF11, BMP9, and BMP10. And these are critical for endothelial homeostasis. And so they maintain the structural integrity of your blood vessel walls. And so when ACE-031 removes these ligands from circulation, blood vessel integrity is compromised. Now, the good news is when participants got off ACE-031, there was no issue. It went away pretty quickly. But what they did find is that using smaller doses for short periods of time, they were able to gain some pretty impressive muscle growth. The study that I mentioned with these postmenopausal women, this was published in Muscle and Nerve 2013, and more studies need to be done. But this was 48 healthy postmenopausal women. They compared it against placebo, and what they were using, the dosing was 0.02 milligrams per kilograms and up to 3 milligrams per kilograms subcutaneous injections. Human data at the highest dose of 3 milligrams per kilogram. That is where they had the most statistically significant results by day 29. Plus, they found a total body percentage of 3.3 improvement in lean mass measured by DEXA scan. And so that's the gold standard when you're thinking about body composition. They also measured the percentage, that 5.1 percentage of muscle volume measured by MRI. Both reached statistical significance. Separate Canadian phase 1 cohort of 48 healthy volunteers showed a lean muscle mass increase of 2.4%, the 1 milligram per kilogram dose, and 2.6% at the 3 milligram per kilogram dose by day 57, confirming durability. So they had, there's 2 studies that went on, and they found that bone formation biomarkers increased. So these are a lot of women and the healthy volunteers. Concerns with sarcopenia, where your muscle starts getting replaced by fat, which can lead to downstream osteopenia, osteoporosis. But here's the adverse events. In phase 1, there is some ejection site redness, but generally speaking, these single doses were very well tolerated. At the 3 milligram per kilogram, they looked at the FSH, the follicle stimulating hormone. This is your pituitary hormone that activates your reproductive system. They found that it started to decrease at this higher dose by approximately 43% in postmenopausal. This confirmed near maximal suppression of activin signaling across the entire system, not just the muscle-related pathway. So the program, it was terminated because there's no softening of this. They found that, if we're changing the FSH and then if there's risks of bleeding, they just found maybe we just don't know enough about it. So once again, this is phenomenal peptide. Use properly. Do not get this one on your own. Make sure you're working with your doctor and your doctor is getting it from a 503A compounding pharmacy. Well, here's another study. Now, this one was studied and published in Muscle and Nerve in 2017, and it was for Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. And these were ambulatory boys with Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. They're enrolled in a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled ascending dose study. And ACE-031 showed trends toward maintaining a 6-minute walk test scores and increasing lean muscle mass in the treatment groups. So these boys, they started to walk better. The 6-minute pace, they were able to gain more ground than before. But the trial was stopped because of epistaxis, so nosebleeds. And so they noticed there's some dilated superficial blood vessels, both appearing on the skin. And so they pulled it off because they realized this inhibition of the BMP9 and BMP10, those are the proteins involved in your muscle biology. It probably was the endothelial, the cells that make up the walls of your blood vessels, they were disrupted. And so they assumed that it was this vascular wall integrity that was causing this issue. It was not catastrophic. There was nothing severe. Things went away within a couple of days after the boys got off the ACE-031. But once again, I think we're close to something that's pretty magical. Now, there's another peptide, follistatin 344, and this one is not a decoy. It's a real myostatin inhibitor. I think this one still, we have a lot of work that we need to do to figure out if follistatin 344 is safe. But very first thing you want to look at is track your markers. So you want to look at blood markers, looking at your kidney function, your liver function. You want to look at FSH and LH and estradiol. You want to look at your sex hormone binding globulins, because remember in that study where there is that reduction of FSH. Now, dudes, we don't want FSH down. I mean, a lot of times you're using like a gonadorelin or maybe a SERM, like in clomiphene, to increase your body's own natural production pulsing of testosterone. And so we don't want those suppressed. And so in men, FSH and LH regulate spermatogenesis, and that's through the activin signaling in the Sertoli cells. And so any protocol that's involving this inhibition, like if you're suppressing these, then you want to look at a full hormone panel. Now, you also want to think of these bone formation markers. So osteocalcin or P1NP, these could be really helpful for tracking how the health of your bone is, because ACE-031 seemed to have these unexpected bone improvements. But if you don't need it, then maybe there could be a risk there. So very first thing you want to do with ACE-031 is work with a licensed medical provider, find out if this is right for you. What I've done for you is you can book your free intro session with one of our Health Span Ascension specialists, and then get your labs ran, work with our medical team, get your health operating system. And actually there's some cool things you can do with other peptides that may be very beneficial for your long-term health. And looking at hormones, we only use 503A compounding pharmacies. We do things safely because we want your best next decade to be your best decade. Really appreciate you being on the show. I'm going to do a video called follistatin 344 versus ACE-031 next. Make sure you click on that if you're interested in the comparison. I'll see you there.